Hey guys, it's Rachel at From Moments to Milestones. We have a new card class today. This is a Hero Arts card class, Message in a Bottle, featuring their Message in a Bottle die set and their Banner Days stamp and die cut set. So we're going to make these 3 cards. One of them is a shaker. If you get the kit, this time you're getting written instructions from Hero Arts, and your kits will be cut in there, one for each card. And they also list the supplies used. So that's nice. So additional supplies you're going to need today are going to be a brown ink of some kind, a teal blue ink. I'm using Hero Hues Reactive Blue Raspberry. I have a blue blending brush, something to blend my brown ink. And then I have a black pen. This is just a Micron 0.5, I believe, and just a white gel pen. So I think that is all we're going to need extra. So we're going to start off with the shaker card. I'll pull that in and grab the kit. You're probably going to want something to dump your pieces out on because there's lots of little pieces. Do I have something? Okay, I found something to dump my pieces in. And we're going to start with this blue piece here. And you can see in the background I've kind of got an ombre, and that's where we're going to use the blue ink. I'm just going to ink up my brush. And I'm just going to start at the bottom. And slowly work my way up. I'm going to go about a third of the way up on the cardstock, and then I'm going to pull my front panel over to make sure I'm happy with that. So just with the bottle cut out, and I'm perfect for me. So I'm just going to clean up my ink mess here, a little rubbing alcohol. All right, so I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to glue it to my card base. All right, so, and it will just go centered. You want the darkest part at the bottom, and I'm just going to center it on there. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to cover it up anyway. And then what we need to do is find your acetate. And you may have a tissue sheet with it. You can just toss that. And we're going to glue the acetate to the back of this. I tried to cut it slightly smaller. If it's not, you may have to trim it down. But you can use wet glue or score tape or double-sided adhesive, whatever you have. I do have some double-sided adhesive. I think my ATG would work just fine here too. And you can use wet glue. You just got a little bit of dry time involved there. Okay, I have that backing removed, and I'm just going to lay that down. Like I said, hopefully it should fit right inside your panel. If not, you can just trim it off. And now you're going to need some foam tape to create the shaker well. Actually, I jumped ahead. You're going to need this little piece of sand. You can see that in the bottle on the inside. And it would have been easier to do before we put that on. But let's go ahead. I'm going to ink this up. I'm just going to put, well, that was a lot of ink. I'm just going to darken it up a little bit around the edges. And then I'm going to take that white and black pen. I'll start with the black. And I'm just going to add some dots. I'm just trying to make it look like sand. There's no right or wrong. Just went in with some black dots, and I'm just going to go in and throw in some white ones as well. Get my pen started. There we go. And you could skip this detail if you don't want to do it. This is a shaker card, so it's going to be hidden. And now we have, looks a little bit more like sand, and that's going to fit. It actually goes inside there but behind. So like I said, it would have been easier without the acetate on there, but that's all right. So I'm just going to put it in there, hold it like so. Slippery. And then I'll just line that up and place it down. That looks good. So got that down. It would have been easier before the acetate. You could just tucked it inside, but it worked out. So now we're going to flip this over and we're going to add the foam. So I have just some foam strips here, and I find it easiest. Now some of these straight shots, you don't need it. I'm going to start right here and just go along the edge. Now, if I wanted to curve, you can curve it with the backing on, but it's a lot easier if you pull the backing off. And then it just really is easy to move. That. So I'm just going to go all the way, and I want to, now these are big pieces, so you don't have to worry about getting it super tight, but you still want to close up your shaker well. All right, that'll work. Now I do have an opening right here, and if I had glitter or really small pieces, I wouldn't want that big of an opening, but these aren't going to fit through there, so I'm just going to leave that. And then you also want to get some foam around the edges so that it all stands level on the card. All right, so I've got all that foam on there. I haven't removed the backing yet. You have your little shaker bit. So the first thing I want you to do is I'm just going to cut off the top, because that bend is going to cause problems where I folded and also the sticky. So now I can just get in there, get what I need. I'm going to pull out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sequins. The color really doesn't matter. I mean, there are 3 different colors in there, so however you want. I do have a gold on top of my flower, and I have 2 more there, so maybe I'll try to get at least 3 gold, and the others I won't worry about. There's 1, 2, and 3 maybe. Okay, and then I've got 4, 5. Okay, I've got enough there. There's 6 of them. So the rest of them are going to go inside my shaker. So you can do it 2 ways. You can pour this into here and then turn your card over and lay it on top. That's probably the easiest. You can also pour your sequins onto the card here where you think it's going to lay, and then you can lay this down on top and trap them inside. So however you want to do that, I'm going to take my anti-static tool and just go around on the inside of just to try to eliminate the static in there. And I'm going to pull off the backing first, because once those sequins in there, and every time you pull off, it's going to pop around, and I don't want that. So I'm going to pull off my backings. And now I'm going to dump those sequins in. All out of there. Go. And if you have any, like right here, sticking to my foam, I'm going to need to get that off of there. Okay. And you can gently spread those around, flatten them out if you want. Like I don't want big clumps laying on top of each other, then it might not move around the way I want it to. Okay. Forgot a backing. Pull that off. Okay. I'm going to take my card, making sure that that is going to match up there. And I'm going to start at the top and just match it up. Press around the edges, around the well in the center to really seal it off. And now you have your shaker. Okay, so now let's decorate the outside. We are going to, we'll start with the cork at the top. So you're going to need this part of the lid, the light blue. You're going to need the cork, the dark blue, and then you're also going to need this little piece here. This is the top of the cork. So I'll start with that. So that dark brown piece goes right at the top of the cork. Okay. And then I know it's an odd order, but we're going to put the cap down. Then you'll put down the cork. And you want the cork about in the middle so you can see it through the jar. So it's going to look like it's actually inside the jar. And then this is the lid, the side. And so now it's going to look like it went inside the jar. So that, you can glue it all together and then glue it on, however you're comfortable doing that. I am going to just use my tweezers. It's all together the way I want it. And I'm going to glue down the light blue and the cork, and then I'll go back and add the front of the lid. So that's on there. I should add a little glue there. Oh, now it's going to move on me. And I'll add on the lid. Right on top, and it should match up right with that light blue. And then I'm just going to put on here a block on top to hold it down. This one has a stamp on. I'm going to pull that off. And I'll just hold it down while it dries. And while we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and layer up our flowers. So you should have a dark yellow and a light yellow. I did use foam in between. I'm going to get a small foam square, put it on top of the dark yellow, and then the light yellow is going to go on top. We're just going to offset the petals, and then I'm going to put a gold sequence in the center. So. And then I'm going to take these leaves, and I've got a dark green and a light green, however you want to do it. I'm just going to glue them. I'm going to lay them out, put glue on those, on the ends, and just make it all one piece, like so. And now I can stick that on when I'm ready. All right, so I don't know if you can see, but this also comes with like two bands. So here they are. There's one smaller and one slightly smaller in the other one. So the smaller one goes on top, and then the little bow. So it's supposed to look like twine wrapped around the bottle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the smaller one. I'm going to put glue on the back, and we're going to put it right there. Put on the other one, just below it. And then the little bow. And I'm just going to try to tuck that in like so. I kind of want it to go under, so let's lift that up a little. Tuck it in, and then I'm going to lay a block on top to let that dry. And let's see, we've got our sentiment, so let's put some foam on the back of that. You can lay it flat if you don't want that added dimension. That's fine too. You can just glue it. I would suggest wet glue on the acetate so you get a good hold. And that's just going to go right there in the center. All right, that is on there. Let's go ahead and put our flower right there. Oh. And then we were going to finish off with the remaining sequins. I'm turn that way. So I'm going to put one here and here. And then I've got 1, 2, 3. Hold one there. All right. We're done with that card. Our next card is sending birthday wishes. And this one you should have sequins in there for your flower. Just one. And I did slightly go around the edges of this paper with some blue. So I'm not even going to add any ink. I'm just going to see what I got on there. I'm going to need to add a little. And you can go as dark as you want, but I'm just focusing on the corners. And then I'll all right, that should be good. Just a real light coat. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to take that piece and glue it to my card base. I'm going to center that up. All right. Now we're going to build up our bottle. So I'm going to pop up my bottle. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I'm going to put some. All right, I've got all the backing removed and I'm going to turn it slightly. You can go either direction, whatever you want to do. I've got mine slightly turned to the right and about 1/2 inch from the bottom. You want to leave room for the lid up there. Whoops. All right, we're going to do that same thing that we did to the sand before. I'm just going to add some brown ink. Just a little bit more. Okay, get the black and the white pen. All right, so that looks good to me. I'm going to glue that onto the bottle. All right, and now we're going to put together the scroll. So you have a gray piece, a white piece, and then you're going to have the wrap and kind of the tie of the wrap. So you can pop up this part on the scroll if you want. You can just glue it straight down. I opted for some thin foam. I have sheets of it, like scraps here, and I'm just going to use one of those. Got one of those down. And it'll just give it a little bit of a raise. So I'm going to put that on the back. Just fits. And then there are emboss lines, but it just matches right up at the bottom. Just like so. And then we're going to go in and add. So the way that works is it looks like that. So whichever way you want your, I have it, my bow on the right side. So I'm going to close the ends together like so. And then this piece will just tuck behind. Like that. And then we're just going to put it inside the jar. So I'm just going to glue that down. It is also slightly angled. This time we're not going to use the cork. We're just going to use the lid. So it's put the brown on top of the jar. And then that little edge of the lid is the light tan. We're going to put that on. All right. I'm going to layer up that flower again like we did before. So just a foam square. The dark on the bottom. Offset. And then that is just going to go on the edge. Put some glue just on the one petal. Have it right in there. And you can put some foam underneath it, which I think I will, so it doesn't, well, actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to tuck the leaves in. So let's do that. We've got a leaf here and here. So let's just put some glue on the back of those. There's that. Get them the way I want them here. And I'm going to put the sequins on top of the flower like we did before. Then we're going to finish with the sentiment. We've got sending birthday wishes, and it's just going to go over the edge. I'm going to put a foam square on each end because it's going to sit over, and then a little piece. What did I do with that half? Here it is. I'm just going to put a little, that right there, of the skinny foam so it all lines up. Put that in the middle. I'm just going to lay that over the top of the scroll. I want it. I didn't pull the backing off of those. Why is that not sticking? There we go. All right, and that card is finished. Okay, we're on to our last card. Some friendships are timeless. We got a couple scrolls here, and I'm sure you can see that this could also work as a graduation card. Those look like diplomas slightly. And maybe if you want to reinforce the scroll, you could add some brown ink if you wanted to. I left mine uninked, but it's entirely up to you. So we're going to start with the blue ink again. So I'm going to see what's left on my brush, and I'm just going to go in the center and do a circle. And I might just go a tad darker, not too much. So that should be good. We can glue this piece to our card base. You'll have a very thin white border. Okay. So now we're going to layer up our scrolls. I'm going to use that same thin profile foam on those. And they do sell these this thin profile in actual foam squares. I don't know, maybe strips too, I'm not sure. I just have these big sheets that I cut up. So. Put those on. There we go. And then we're going to put on the wraps, the twine. So one thing I'll say, I want one to go one way and one to go the other. So if you're looking at them, you want one of them off to the left. Oh, they're both off to the left. Okay, that makes sense. So you want this triangle end going where you can see that little bit of gray poking out. You want it on that side because we're going to turn one the other direction. So let's glue those on. And you can, it might be easier after I tried to tuck it. I think I'm going to glue them together before I glue them on. So I'm going to put a dot of glue there. And just glue that on. I'm going to do that to both of them. Perfect. And then just like that. So the bow on the side, oh my goodness, I pulled it out. The bow on the side with a little extra bit of gray. All right. Now, we're going to have one going this way and one going that way. So the one on top and the back, I'm going to add foam to. This one's kind of straight and this one's going to kind of sit on top. I'm going to use that thin profile foam again. And I'm not going to put it down here, just on that edge. That off. Okay. So let's remove the backing. So I've just got foam on the one side because it's going to overlap here. So we'll put some wet glue on there. It'll still stick. And we're going to go just like that. Oh, I don't have this one glued down. That would be helpful. I'm going to kind of get an idea of what I'm doing here. There's that one. And this one's going to sit on top. Go. I do have this popped up. Some foam squares. And then that's just going to go right down here. I might wait on that. I'm actually going to wait on that because, or I'm going to slightly, you need room for the flowers. So let's layer up our flowers, make sure we've got room for everything. So I'm going to do just like I did before with the foam square. One and two. So one of them is going to go down here and one up here. And you could put it up on foam if you want it on top. I'm going to kind of tuck it. So. And then put that there. Let's just glue it down and then we'll put our friendship is timeless sentiment on. Now we can put that in. I just didn't want to have it in the way. So it's going to be ever so slightly off to the, or I can overlap that flower, which is what I'm going to do. Okay. And you could even pull that petal up if you wanted. See if I like that better. Yeah, I do. And now we're going to tuck some leaves in. On here. And then a darker one, you could come right in there as well. I have one coming out this way, so I'll just do that. All right. And let's glue this one down, and then we can tuck the flowers in. Or the leaves. On here. And you just got to add the two sequins and we'll be finished with this. That card is finished. Well, that does it for this card class. I hope you enjoyed these sweet message in a bottle cards. I think this is a really fun set. If you have any questions, you can leave them below. I will try to leave a link to our website where you could purchase this kit or any supplies that I've used here today. Thanks again so much for watching, and we will see you soon.